Okay, let's bring this one in. We're down to the home stretch. Thanks for hanging in there. All right, let's take a couple of minutes to look at some of the systems, things that affected some of Charlie's systems that affected his crisis. Um, if you want to look at the narrowest, the smallest circle, the micro circle of the family, um, Charlie's family expected him to stay at the farm, but the expectation was really tied to keeping the farm within the family. The community expected and hoped that the young men of that community would stay on their farms. This is a tight-knit rural community, and young people had been leaving for the city for years, so it's caused a lot of anguish there. However, farming through the 70s and the 80s is very unprofitable, and we won't get into the reasons for that. But he tells me about how every year they would mortgage the farm to buy seed and putting up the farm as collateral. And he said that in the 20 years of farming that they broke even maybe 3 years in that whole period of time. He talks about the droughts that took 10 years to recover from, sometime in the 70s. So it's really, really tough, tough on him. And so the fact that his brother came along asking to be like, he just leapt at that opportunity to leave when his brother expressed an interest in farming. He knew there was a better way to make a living. But it's pretty unclear whether Charlie would have done this of his own volition had his brother not come along. Um, but the fact that he did it helped him break out of that mold. So the fulfillment of the generative task has led Charlie to having a sense of ego integrity. He feels very centered. He feels very good about himself in this latter part of his life. Um, Moving along, another theory that we could touch with to analyze this is the ecological theory that was developed by Urie Bronfenbrenner, where it posits that human development is explained by a dynamic interaction between a person and her environment, that they're actively involved in the environments and their own personal development, and any negative, positive traits that they're born with are positively and negatively affected by the environment. And the environments that are broken down into four categories, from the very intimate, the microsystem, which is the most intimate, has the greatest impact on the individual, to the mesosystem, exosystem, and macrosystem, which is the widest circle. And in a microsystem, if you want to take a look at this, Charlie's family and community both expected him to stay and work on a father's farm instead of leaving for the city. So it was a good thing that a family member was the one that provided him with the out. At a mesosystem level, Charlie knew that nobody in his community, church, or social circles would have wanted him to leave this small town. However, from the exosystem pressures, that the farm was not profitable, and he was unable to make it so because he couldn't make enough money to do anything other than just to service the loans. So ultimately, these economic forces at the macrosystem level, well outside of his influence, held sway and pushed Charlie out the door, so to speak. And if you want to take a critical look at this, this ecological theory has its limitations. I don't feel that it's a good theory really for predicting, or at least not as good of a theory for predicting Charlie's behavior, because it's kind of looking at exterior environmental things as having a greater impact as to the sort of the natural track that people will be along. I think that Erikson's theory does a better job at predicting Charlie's choices because his moves come from a generative desire to care for himself and for his family. It's just a normal part of this generative stage of life. And that the move is a natural outflow of a need to resolve an unfinished task that he had from the identity versus identity diffusion stage. And the resolution of that is what led him to be able to be successful in this generative task. So, that concludes my video discussion. Here's some references if you want to chase those books down or articles down. And I thank you for your time.